considered a public community meeting. There is time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. First item is call to order and pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Tom, would you please do roll call?
Mr. Huber,
Yes.
Mrs. Gingrich,
Here.
Mr. Self,
Here.
Mrs. Voorhees,
Here.
Mr. Gilmore.
Here. All right, do we have a motion to set the agenda? I'm assuming everybody looked over the agenda.
So moved.
Third.
Okay.
Mr. Gilmore,
Aye.
Mr. Self,
Yes.
Mrs. Voorhees,
Yes.
Mrs. Gingrich,
Aye.
Mr. Huber.
Yes. We have the reception of the public. We have a presentation for Tracy Denmeyer, Special Educator Director.
Good evening, everybody. I am Tracy Denmeyer. I am the Special Education Director here with Salina City Schools. And a couple weeks ago, I had the privilege to observe a lesson at our high school with two of our teachers. Allie Buckland and Andrea Graves are two of our high school teachers, like I mentioned, and they do a wonderful job co-teaching. And they led a super engaging lesson for the students that night, and they have happily agreed to come and share a little bit about this lesson that they presented to the students. Correct me if I'm wrong, this was part of your CEA grant that you ladies wrote, and so they're going to tell us a little bit about their lesson. So I'm going to turn it over to Allie and Andrea.
Hi, I'm Allie Buckland. I'm an intervention specialist at the high school.
I'm Andrea Graves. I'm the math teacher at the high school. So together we co-teach a class we call Senior Math Concepts. Earlier this year, she stated we received the $100 CEA mini grant we used for a STEAM project, which was the paper roller coasters. We have some examples up here. We'd like to just share with you how the grant benefited our students in the project we were doing.
We have 2 periods of senior math concepts this year. There are a total of 29 students in the class. 12 of them participate in a Fresh Start program of some sort. An additional 11 students participate in the Career-Based Intervention or CBI program or class. There are 12 students receiving special education services through an IEP, 2 students receiving services through a 504, and 4 students receiving ELL services.
Based on an interest survey, the majority of our students are more kinesthetic, visual type learners. As we analyzed this information, it became clear to us that we are creating our curriculum. We needed to take a different, more hands-on approach to instruction. Our class is designed to provide math instruction to our students that they can use in the real world. We provide differentiated instruction that is designed with our students in mind. Some of the topics we cover are mental math, measuring, where we do measuring and cooking, which a lot of these kids surprisingly had never done before, as well as measuring as far as for tape measures and things like that. We also do calculating tax and discount, solving formulas, as well as various topics of financial literacy, taxes, buying houses, things like that. We also want to help our students with life skills. Some of the life skills that we focused on are critical thinking, cooperation, solving problems, communicating, decision-making, self-awareness, empathy, leadership, and assertiveness.
We centered our instruction around hands-on activities that our students could use to apply the math skills they were taught in the classroom. So we've completed many projects throughout the year. We built 3-dimensional houses, we created a car powered by Mousetrap and many other other things, as you can see. Those are just a few. We still did quite a few more than that. One of the most popular projects was this roller coaster project. The students enjoyed it immensely. The roller coasters are made completely out of cardstock paper and tape. Oh, there we go. They created a track with different pieces of track that a marble can race from top to bottom.
So as stated, we were awarded the $100 mini grant from CEA, which we used to purchase all of the materials for this project. Some of the materials purchased we will be able to use for years to come. The most important purchase was the template, which we found on a website. And they sell the templates, directions how to assemble, as well as activities that are science and math related. We provided each group with a packet of templates, a tape and dispenser, the cardboard base, as well as a rubric. Then from there, they had guidelines they had to use, but after that is completely their creativity. They could each kind of design their own track and play around with it a little bit. So the students were given 14 days to create these roller coasters with frequent check-ins. They were given a rubric with specific expectations in the schedule. So they had 5 days to complete the white base outline. And there were 3 or 4 in a group for the most part also. And then they had 9 days to actually build and construct a roller coaster, most of which actually wanted more time because they wanted to constantly go higher and bigger and get more creative with them. But then on the 15th day, they were required to test them, make sure it could complete the track, as well as calculate the speed of the marble from various distances within the track. And they also had to calculate the cost of building this roller coaster if it were a real-life situation. So the students worked together to solve problems, interpret and follow directions, plan ahead, and meet deadlines. So here are some of the finished projects we took in the group. We displayed these in the media center for a couple weeks. A lot of students enjoyed seeing them in the media center. After that project, we asked our students to reflect on both the roller coaster project and the other class projects that we had completed. We asked them what they liked best about the roller coaster project, as well as what they learned from a project-based classroom. Here are some examples. Josh Campbell said he liked that they were able to accomplish the roller coaster in the amount of time given. Some of them had some serious trouble with time management up to that point, so that was good. Claire Samanienko said that she's learned more actual real-life things in this class more than any other class she has been in. Here's some more groups.
Did they have a race between the 3 different ones?
Yeah.
They did. We ended up, we had 3 in one class and 4 in the other. We had a challenge to see who would take the longest to go down, was what they challenged each other to do. And of course, it turned into major competitions. So Dawn Smith said, I'm a hands-on learner. Being able to build and actually being able to see it work in action, this is way easier for me to learn.
Some of the students, like Courtney Kitchener, said that working with others is a life skill that they've learned through this course.
So they just said, Wes said, the challenge that we overcame during project-based learning was going out of your comfort zone and working with people you may not trust or never worked with before.
A lot of times when we give them choices, they stick with the same people every time. And this, they were challenged to work with other people.
Yeah, we carefully kind of chose groups based on different skill levels and what we thought they could bring to the group. But a lot of students said that their communication and problem-solving skills improved as they worked with many of their classmates that they may have never worked with before.
So next is a video. One of our students took a video and posted it on YouTube, and it will play right away. So I wanted to give you a heads up. It's called The Champion. Unfortunately, it was not the champion of the group, but they named it that, so that's what it's titled. Oh, one more picture. There it is. So the kids really enjoyed it, we enjoyed teaching it, and we appreciate the CEA for the grant so that we could afford to do this fun project, and we look forward to doing it again next year. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have presentation of donations to the librarians from the CEA.
At the last school board meeting, I reported, and Mayor Jeff Hazel was here to do a presentation for Teacher Appreciation Week. And we did have that a couple of weeks ago, and as a teacher myself, we all felt truly appreciated. At the high school, we got pies made by the Healthy Foods class. At the intermediate West and intermediate, elementary, and primary buildings, they were treated to food from their CCSCO organization, and so they were treated there too. And I'm not sure what they did at the middle school, but I know there was food involved. So anyway, but one thing that we always do that CEA does during Teacher Appreciation Week is gives $50 to each one of our libraries, so that we can just buy some extra books for the students, and those are the checks that Eric is going to present tonight. So there's one for each of us, and from left to right here, I've got Emily Bacher from the primary, and Pam Fowler from the intermediate building, and Nancy Vanderhorst from the middle school, and Karen Klosterman from the elementary building, and I'm at the high school library. So. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, do we have Carol Henderson with the OPC president? Any update? Nothing? Okay. Thank you. All right, we have some people signed up to speak. First, we have Joan Stevens. Since there are multiple speakers, we are putting the 3-minute time limit on this. Okay? No, you can come up.
You do it. You can go. You can come on.
Dear school board members, thank you for the opportunity tonight to address you. We want to begin by acknowledging the difficult and no doubt at times thankless jobs that you do. Please note that it is not our desire to add any burden to you with respect to our concerns related to the book, The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. That said, we think the greater point is being missed here. Our son has been treated by the school as a problem, as the problem. His teachers' efforts have been patronizing to us and to our son. It appears that they view him as if he is too emotionally or socially fragile to handle the sexual and racist content of the book, when in reality it is his moral strength of character and not some deficiency in him that brings us to this point. He is not the problem. Rather, it is the objectionable content of this book itself, and perhaps that would defend such vileness that pose the real problem. If we may be so bold, our son should be commended, not singled out to be treated as some kind of moral weakling needing softer special treatment. The suggestion from the Book Challenge Committee that we are arguing for its tantamount to book banning or censorship is terribly unfair to us, and furthermore misses the point entirely. Unless, of course, their position is that no moral standards should be in place for our students. We hope this is not the case. In other words, we assume that they, and we trust you as a school board, have some moral line that you do not feel should be crossed, and that there should be some books, that there are some books, perhaps many books, that you would not allow into our library and that you would not sanction to be assigned reading for our teens. For instance, we assume that you would not condone the assigning of books that promote anti-Semitism or gender discrimination. But does this render you guilty of censorship, or does it merely render you morally responsible administrators who accept the duty to protect the innocence of our students and respect parental authority? But so that we are not guilty of assuming anything, let us ask you directly, does the school board have a moral line, a standard that you will not cross with respect to reading assignments for our students? If so, what is it? We trust that you as a board are not okay with the content of this book. But if you are okay with the vile language of, and forgive me as I quote exactly what our students are now being exposed to. I don't talk like this, so this is a little uncomfortable for me. Stinky asses, faggot, erect penises, pussy, boners, niggers fuck buffalo, and WTF, which refers to what the fuck. And the sexually explicit talk of masturbation, and then we're left wondering, what won't you allow? If you indeed judge this book to be good literature, do you also consider its message to be good behavior? When students begin talking about erect penises in classrooms, you will find this to be acceptable as well. If we're requiring our children to read about these things, will we then reprimand them for talking about or acting them out as well?
Are you about done with 3 minutes past?
Yeah. Is it indeed morally acceptable at Salina High School for adult teachers to discuss things like erect penises, masturbation, faggots, etc. with minors in the classroom? If not, why not? To be clear, these questions are not rhetorical in nature. We are asking for written answers to these questions.
Okay, thank you.
As parents, should we accept that in the future years, the courage of our school administrators to love our students and do right by them to continue to erode even further, as the moral bar of our school will continue to decay to the peril of the most precious resource, our children. Furthermore, we are curious, what is the school's policy on sexual harassment? We would like to see this because we have a hard time believing that talk of erect penises, boners, and faggots doesn't violate this. As foster parents, if we spoke this way to our children in our care, Child Protective Services would yank them out in a New York minute. And we would face serious legal consequences, and rightly so. But when the same brand of perversion is labeled literature, it seems that anything goes, regardless of whether it encourages an unsafe and hostile classroom environment. Any objective reader can quickly recognize that this book is not literature, it's indoctrination. By the way, would it surprise any of you that NPR has reported the author of this book, Sherman Alexie, has come under fire for sexual harassment by as many as 10 women, and they admitted to at least some of these charges. Garbage in, garbage out. As parents, as board members, and administrators, we have a duty to provide the very best education for our students. Why would we not want to expose them to the very best literature? Is this book in your minds the very best that we can do? If so, this is pathetically low standard to set for our children. In closing, our son has faced and has overcome many hardships in his life. He has been bullied repeatedly in the school by students. Now we fear that he'll be abandoned by you, the very ones who should be his protector. Our son is a fine young man, and this has been very upsetting to him. But to be clear, we are not raising these concerns only for him. We are asking you to set and abide by standards that protect all the children under your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Kim Worley.
Thank you for allowing me to address you this evening. My name is Kim Worley. I was born and raised in Salina, graduated from Salina High School in 1982, and am currently residing in Salina. I am a literacy coach and a second grade teacher for Van Wert City Schools. I've spent my entire career in education, honing my craft and being a positive role model for students. I share this to let you know that I understand the hard work and dedication that it takes to be a leader and an educator in today's schools. With that said, I'd like to take a moment to petition you to hear what I have to say concerning educators exposing students to the sexually explicit and perverse book, The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. After reading the book myself this past week, I cannot describe the decision to expose students to this as anything less than a scandalous lack of professional discretion. Professional discretion is something that should be taken very seriously, especially when it comes to representing school districts and student populations. Professional discretion keeps students safe. All students have the right to a safe environment that is conducive to learning and achievement. But it's not just about physical safety of students. As educators, we must also keep our students' minds safe from things that could potentially harm them mentally, emotionally, and morally. Therefore, we must use discretion when choosing materials to teach the standards so our curriculum is safe as well. Saying yes to the very best literature and no to morally repugnant books like the one in question is not censorship. It is the proper exercise of professional discretion. When school teachers, principals, and school boards maintain professional discretion on behalf of our students develop a loyalty and trust towards us in return. Joan and Scott's son placed his trust in his teacher and his school. While reading this book, he felt confused and was betrayed by the ones who are supposed to keep him and every other student safe and protected from offensive materials. I currently teach in the primary grades. I'm certain that my educational colleagues who teach in the middle school and high school trust that I am not exposing my students to anything that would be remotely questionable content for the targeted age group. Just as they can trust me and other primary teachers in this, shouldn't it be the other way around as well? Shouldn't the primary teachers who have loved and nurtured these same kids who just get older and enter the upper grades, shouldn't we be able to trust those middle and high school colleagues in the same way? In closing, I'm asking you to maintain the reputation and integrity of the Salina City School District by removing the absolute true diary of a part-time Indian by Sherman Alexie from both the Media Center and any and all assigned class readings. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last speaker, we have Mike Spencer.
Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight, each one of you. I am a good friend of Scott and Jones, and I have a particular interest in their son. I have a pretty special relationship with this young man, and they did not ask me to speak tonight. I'm here of my own volition. I asked Scott and Joan if it would be okay with them if I did come and share. What I decided to do is, and not to shock or anything like that, but I realize that you have a weighty decision to make as a board. I'm not sure it's that weighty, but it would be an important decision, I'm sure. And it might be good for us to hear not just some of the things that Joan shared in her letter, but to actually hear them, not necessarily in full context, of course, but to hear a little bit more of it. And I should state, too, that what I'm going to share is a very brief portion of what could be shared, the vile nature of what could be shared in this book. So, again, as Joan said, I'll say the same. This is not the way I speak, and I'm not comfortable sharing it tonight. And to those of you who might be offended by this, then you'll understand why we at least feel that this should not be assigned reading or even permissible reading through the library here. Just a couple of these, just 4 of these. Here's one excerpt. Quote, I spend hours in the bathroom with a magazine that has 1,000 pictures of naked movie stars. Yep, that's right. I admit that I masturbate. I'm proud of it. I'm good at it. I'm ambidextrous. If there were a professional masturbators league, I'd get drafted #1 and make millions of dollars. And maybe you're thinking, well, you really shouldn't be talking about masturbation in public. Well, tough. I'm going to talk about it because everybody does it and everybody likes it. And if God hadn't wanted us to masturbate, then God wouldn't have given us thumbs. So I thank God for my thumbs. And then further on in the book, he says, the author writes, you should also read and draw because really good books and cartoons give you a boner. I was shocked. Did you say books should give me a boner? Yes, I did. Are you serious? Yeah, don't you get excited about books? I don't think you're supposed to get that excited about books. You should get a boner. You have to get a boner, Gordy shouted. Come on. And then further down that page, yes, 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 Gordy said. Now, doesn't that give you a boner? I am rock hard, I said. Gordy blushed. Page 131. Rowdy was the opposite of repressed. He was exactly the kind of kid who would email his bare ass and bare everything else to the world. Hey, Gordy said, is that somebody's posterior? Posterior? Did he just say posterior? Gordy, my man, I said. That is most definitely not a posterior. That is a stinky ass. You can smell the thing, even through the computer. Whose butt is that, he asked. And then continuing on here, page 199. A few days after basketball season ended, I emailed Rowdy and told him I was sorry that we beat him so bad, and that their season went to hell after that. We'll kick your asses next year, Rowdy wrote back, and you'll cry like the little faggot that you are. I might be a faggot, I wrote back, but I'm the faggot who beat you. Now, I'm a pastor by trade, not actively pastoring now, but I can tell you, and you know as well as I do, that if I talk this way to students under my care, under my pastoral care in my youth group, when I was pastoring, that would be front page news in this city. And that's the kind of scandal that we despise when we see in church leaders throughout the land. It's this kind of thing. And I just want to ask the board, and I don't expect an answer from you tonight because I realize you need to convene and make a decision about this, but just a couple of questions I would ask you to consider. One is this, if this is in your minds, and I trust it's not, by the way, I'm certainly not coming here with any kind of assumption or any kind of accusation, but if this is in your minds, if you deem this worthy of the students reading, is this also okay for middle schoolers and grade schoolers? And if not, then I would just simply ask, why not? Because if the answer is it's okay for some and not others, then I guess we're guilty of censorship according to the book committee that was formed. A second and final question is this. Do you as a school board view this book as one that will positively contribute to producing the kind of students that we want to produce at Salina High School? I trust the answer is no. I hope that it is. Thank you so much for the opportunity to address you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, do we have a motion to approve consensus agenda?
So moved.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Tom, go ahead.
Okay, I'm asking you to approve the minutes of the April 15th, 2019 regular board meeting and the May 1st, 2019 special board meeting. Approve the April 2019 financial summary report showing revenues of $3.133 million and expenditures of $3.430 million. Approve the investment control report for April 2019 with the overall balance at $20,456 or $20,456,459.78. I'm asking you to approve the SM2 report for April 2019. Approve the checks written for April 2019 at $3.968 million. Item 6, approve the continued membership in the West Central Ohio Assistive Technology Center Consortium at a cost of $900 for the 2019-2020 school year. Approve and accept the following donations from Mike Kenny and his family for the Linda Keeney Scholarship, $1,000. From the Mercer County Civic Foundation for the Stratford Trip, $1,500. From the Salina Athletic Boosters for scholarships, $6,000. And from the Salina Band Boosters, half the cost of a band truck at $16,825. From the Gene Haas Foundation for TriStar scholarships, $12,000. From CJ Highmarks for FBLA, $900. And from Osgood State Bank Charitable Committee for outstanding school lunch balances, $700. Item 8 goes with one of the donations from above. Approve the purchase of a 2019 Ford F-250. The cost of that truck is $34,000, with the band boosters donating $16,825 toward that cost. and the purchase being made through the Southwestern Ohio EPC through Bo Townsend Ford. Item number 9, approve the purchase of 2 2019 Ford Transit vans at a cost of $29,000 each. The athletic department has been soliciting donations over the past several months, and they will be donating or putting $29,000 toward that cost, so basically buying one van. Again, these purchases are being made through the Southwestern Ohio EPC through Bo Townsend Ford. The last item I have is the May 2019 5-year forecast and assumptions. I know that you've all had a chance to look at that, I hope. Just want to point out a couple of things on the significant line items. The property taxes, they are done for the year, so it's a little less than it was last year, but there's no more tax money coming in for this year. On the income tax, from year to year, we only saw about a $23,000 increase, and that's with the 1% going into effect on January 1st. When I delved into it a little bit deeper into the actual distributions, we actually saw a $208,000 increase in withholdings coming from the businesses. And a lot of that could be contributed to the increase from 3/4 to 1%. We saw decreases in the amount of estimated payments and payments with returns coming in through the state. And the other big anomaly was the amount of refunds that went out last year. The refunds increased almost $100,000 going out. So I do have a question into the Ohio Department of Taxation to see if they can provide me some clarity, but I have not gotten an answer back from them on that yet.
Mr. Summer, the proposed legislation, was it Cup-Patterson, was that it? That was supposed to increase revenue for school districts? Are you aware of that?
Yeah, and that's the next section with the
I was going to ask you about it.
unrestricted grants and aids. And of course, the state is working on the budget right now. The House basically approved what the governor put through. I think they had increased the funding for mental health. And it's moved over to the Senate. The Senate hasn't made any decisions. I did hear some squawks that they didn't rule out the Cup-Patterson. But I have a hard time believing that it's going to go through. They may, there was talk that it may try to go through as a separate bill and try to make it effective next fiscal year, but I'm not counting on it. I would like to see it. I think it's a good formula, but I'm not counting on it for this year. And in the forecast, I did not include any increases in the state revenue, only because I've seen too many state budgets where they say there's money there and the Senate or somebody turns around and says, no, we're not going to do that. So I've held it pretty much stable through the forecast. And going forward with wages and personnel services, this forecast obviously includes settlements with the unions. And as I stated in my notes, our October forecast triggered ODE to have us solicit or present a plan to either reduce or increase revenues, which we did. They accepted it. All that has been incorporated into forecast. And employee benefits was another area. I had actually in the past included an 8% increase in our health insurance premiums, which was fairly reasonable for us, but because of the high cost of specialty drugs over the last couple of years, we will see a 12% increase on January 1st, 2020. That is reflected in here also. And going forward, I included 10%. I might be a little too conservative on that. I hope that things settle down. Beyond that, the purchase services, of course, we're still looking at taking over the preschool program from the ESC, which would save us some money in purchase services, but on the other end of that, we would be adding to our wages because we have to hire staff to take over the program. Overall, though, it presented us with a net savings, so.
What was the amount again?
It was around the $200,000 area, but we still have some open issues with that, I'll say. Any other questions on the forecast?
I can elaborate a little bit on the Patterson bill. The thing I heard, we went to the same seminar, the state's really just looking where they could get the funding from to finance that. There's quite a bit of money they sought to come up with to incorporate that, which would be a good program for us, but we'll see if it ever gets implemented.
Tom, I had a question. Compared with the October forecast, where we showed deficit spending in 2019, 2020, and 2021, and this is still showing deficit spending in 19, 20, and 21, albeit less.
Yes.
But we're still talking millions of dollars of deficit, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How would you characterize our financial position at this point in time?
Well, based on the October forecast, with the budget reductions that we're implementing, we're in better shape, obviously. But we still have to examine things and look at things that we can try to save some funds. Or at the end of 21, the emergency levy that we currently have out there is expiring. It's possible we may have to look at asking for additional millage on that emergency levy.
Can we make an additional, I realize this isn't mathematically correct, but can we make an additional $4 million in cuts to cover the deficits in 19, 20, and 21?
I would find it very difficult to, without going bare bones, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I've got a question also, Tom, regarding, kind of connection with what Matt asked. We're going the right direction, slowly.
I'm hoping that, historically we'll tell you that as treasurer, I'm very conservative. I'm hoping I'm very conservative, and by the end of 3 years, we're going to be in better shape. But I would like to see the numbers from this state budget. We are set, if it falls through, to get additional money for mental health services. Now, there could be strings with that it can only be spent in certain ways. We'd have to take a look at what we're currently spending towards that direction. But, what was it, between $200,000 and $300,000 each year for the next 2 years? There's $500,000 coming in.
I think some of what the House said, close to $500,000 actually, with an increase per year. Who knows what the Senate's going to do, who knows what the governor's going to do.
But I agree, I would like to see the Cutt-Patterson bill proceed. I just don't see it this year.
Now, the email that I received, of course, you get them from all over the place, one think tank versus the other, but it was very optimistic that there would be, positive revenue coming our way in the very near future. In other words, they thought it was going to pass the Senate.
The House bill.
Yes.
Right. But I think there's still some people out there pushing for continued work on the Cutt-Patterson bill. So
Are we continuing to kind of develop plans to slice whatever we can slice in the meantime to, you know, try to
I think that goes without saying.
I mean, well, and I understand that, but it's one thing to, you know, for us to all say it, but are we actually doing it, I guess is my question. Have we embarked on round 2 of at least looking for things that could be trimmed to get those to manageable numbers to where maybe if the state budget comes through, maybe, you know, we break even or it's a deficit that we can certainly live with.
What is the deadline for the state budget to come out?
Historically, it'll be June 30th.
Yeah, it's usually right, yeah, it's like 11 o'clock PM on June 30th.
Okay.
I mean, we should have a pretty good idea, I would say, mid-June. But until the Senate gets through their package, and then the House and Senate get together and iron out their differences, historically, it's always the end of June before the governor ever signs it.
I've got a question also about property tax. Forgive my ignorance, but it appears to me that property values are going up. And if you drive around like the golf course or wherever, there's new housing starts everywhere. But the projections for property taxes between 2017 and 2020, actual 2017, and then projected 2020, 2021, decreasing significantly. Why is that?
In 2017, there was actually a couple of delinquent properties that were settled on that actually boosted that by about 200,000. So that number's artificially inflated in the 1 year. The next year, 2018, if you remember when the federal tax codes were changed, there was some people who paid their taxes in advance. So some of that went into 2018, so 2019 obviously dropped off a little bit.
I think the reason you're not seeing an increase in the actual base value is you still have depreciation on all other properties such as farm ground and older buildings.
Yeah, I forgot to mention CAUV. What was it, 2014, we saw a huge increase. In 2017, it dropped way off. And it's still...
Farm ground is not depreciating, just our share of the taxation of
The
farm
value,
ground.
the value the state assigns, the value the state assigns to it changes.
But you're right, property values on homes has gone up, but the decrease in the CAUV offset that.
Right.
I mean, I think the last 3 years, our overall property valuation has been in about 440 million. It's just because one's rising, the other's dropping, so.
Thank you.
Any further questions? All right. Ken, you're up.
The Assistant Superintendent's report under personnel, asking you to approve the following substitute for the 2018-2019 school year, Patricia Yaney. We have a couple resignations due to retirement. Sandy Monbeck, bus driver after 40 years of service. Joe Bay, bus mechanic after 35 years of service. We also have a resignation of Diane Bargy, teacher at Head Start. We're asking you to approve to hire Nick Fleck, bus aide with Head Start. He's completed his probation. Then we have several deduct days here. Dawn Gagles requesting 1 deduct day. Brenda Depwig, a half a deduct day. Connie Sapp, 1 deduct day. Tammy Daly, 11 deduct days. Lynn Cropin, 1 deduct day. Then we're asking you to approve to hire the following list for the 2019 summer work as needed. Under the resolution, we're asking you to authorize the use of a school district-owned bus to transport 4-H kids to Indianapolis Motor Speedway on July 5th, 2019. It would be at a cost of $450. Number 2, at the top of page 3, we're asking you to approve the following price increases for the Type A lunch for the, should be 19-20 school year. Breakfast, no change. At the primary, it will go up a dime. Intermediate, up a dime. The middle school increased by a dime. The high school will increase by a dime, but the $3.10 option, that will still stay at the $3.10. The a la carte prices also remain at $2.50.
Any questions on any of those items?
Just out of curiosity, why do the 4-H kids go into the Indianapolis 500?
It's something that they tend to do on a yearly basis.
I believe
It's just a
4-H.
sightseeing.
I think it's the 4-H exchange group, but that's when they actually go back. They host 4-H members from other cities. We're having one this year, so I know about it. So, but they're going back to Indianapolis. Anyway, they're doing some activities there and then are going to go back.
Yeah, they'll leave by plane from Indianapolis the next day from Idaho.
Okay, go ahead, Kim.
Under the superintendent's report, approve the 4 substitutes for the 2018-2019 school year: Adam Beaning, Ali Darris, Chelsea Fullenkamp, and Nate Stoner. And then approve the retirement of Scott Braun, assistant treasurer. Change of contract for Carrie Gladhill, 4th grade teacher, requests 1 deduct day. We have a resignation of Adam Steinbrunner, social studies teacher at the high school. Resignation of Libby Newell, English teacher at the high school. Resignation of Ryan Turnmeyer, TriStar graphics teacher. And we're asking you to approve 1-year teaching contracts for the 2019-20 school year for the listed teachers there. Number 8, approve the following 3-year teaching contracts for the 2019 through 2022 school years. Again, pending proper licensure. Top of page 4, asking you to approve a stipend payment for the 2018-19 LPDC Executive Committee members Betsy Berkey and Jason Lubke at $500 each. Asking you to approve the following personnel for ESY, Extended School Year Services, for identified students: Rachel Eichenauer, Kathy Higgins, and Kathy Miller. Number 11, approve a stipend payment for Stuart Watson to conduct a Psych 2 online course. Number 12, approval of the following personnel for elementary summer school positions as needed. We have 3 subs also listed there: Lisa Bai, Jackie Spencer, and Olivia Stoner. Number 13, recommend approval of the following personnel for pupil activity program contracts: Sage Schmidtmeyer, assistant cheer; Ashley Klein, middle school cheer; Nicole Elston would be the assistant girls tennis. 14, approve the following volunteers for the 1920 school year pending proper certification: Angela Bourne and Carly McNeilin for volleyball. And accept the resignation of Tama Hainline from the girls' assistant tennis coach for the 1920 school year.
A question?
Yes.
Stuart Watson's going to be hopefully teaching Psychology 2.
Correct.
There was no mention of College Credit Plus in there, so I assume that that does not include any college credit.
Correct. That would be offered through the high school.
Okay.
Yes.
Has that thought re-entered our minds of offering College Credit Plus courses on our own campus?
That probably won't come up again until negotiations.
Is there interest by any of the staff?
I think there might be a couple that are already certified and would be able to do that.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Under the resolutions, the resolution number 1, approve the course of study for early childhood at TriStar. We do that every 5 years for the courses of study there. Number 2, approve the revised Head Start administrative compensation plan that reflects the 1.77 cost of living increase. That's effective December 1st of 2018. Approve the resolution creating a network support specialist position on the executive secretary compensation plan. Approve the district cell phone request for Clinton Hirschfeld. And addendum number 5 is the white page on the agenda. That's asking you to approve of the plan, notice, process, and strategy for website accessibility.
Just to clarify, item number 2, that is a federal increase, correct?
That is correct, yes, with our Head Start program.
Yes.
I've got a question regarding Mr. Hirschfeld's position. Is the salary there the same as what it would have been for Mr. Gudorf at the same period of experience?
They're at an equal compensation for the high school assistant principal and the technology director. They're at the same level. Now, Mr. Gudorf has more years of experience, so he was higher on the salaries.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Under TriStar, we're asking you to approve to appoint Tim Rosengarten to a 2-year term as TriStar Advisory Board member starting July 1st of 2019. We'd also like you to approve to accept a 2019 Honda Ridgeline being donated from Honda of America, the Anna engine plant for the TriStar Automotive Program. The value of that vehicle was roughly $31,000. Attachment number 10 is our Head Start report.
All right, any more questions? Do we have any removals from the consensus agenda? Okay.
So Mrs. Riley, we will miss you.
Tom, go ahead and call.
Yes. Mr. Sell.
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore.
Aye.
Mrs. Gingrich.
Aye.
Mrs. Voorhees.
Yes.
Mr. Huber.
Yes. All right, we have other business by board and administration. Do you want to go through these, Ken?
Yes. First, we're asking you to approve the following personnel for the 2019-2020 high school summer school positions as needed. Renee Kramer, Carrie Coverley, Catherine Dirksen, Erica Dreiss, and Wendy Gabus.
I'll move we accept those.
Okay.
I'll second.
Barb seconds. Tom?
Mr. Gilmore.
Aye.
Mrs. Voorhees.
Yes.
Mrs. Gingrich.
Aye.
Mr. Sell.
I should actually abstain on that one.
And Mr. Huber.
Yes.
For number 2, approval of the following personnel for the 2019-2020 ELL summer school positions as needed. Katie Andrew, Cindy Bowser, and Jill Harris.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So, go ahead. So moved.
I'll second.
We'll go Bill and Matt. Tom?
Mr. Sell.
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore.
Aye.
Mrs. Gingrich.
Aye.
Mrs. Voorhees.
I abstain.
And Mr. Huber.
Yes.
Next, we're asking you to approve a stipend payment per the master agreement for the following teachers who have completed the requirements of the Resident Educator Committee for the 2018-2019 school year. Committee members receive $200 each. April Adams, Betsy Kreitz, Deb Lehman, Robin Weininger, Christy Binkley, Erica Dreiss, Wendy Mitchell-Payne, Kim Wilgus, Lisa Bai, Barb Fowler, Mary Blair, and Lynn Ray.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Tom, go ahead.
Mr. Gilmore.
Aye.
Mrs. Voorhees.
Yes.
Mrs. Gingrich.
Aye.
Mr. Sell.
Abstain.
Mr. Huber.
Yes.
Next, we're asking you to approve a resolution regarding appeal of the public complaint regarding instructional materials.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Tom, go ahead.
Do we want to discuss it?
Yes, and also I want to know what I'm voting on here.
Yeah, sure, we can. you
Is the
can
SES or
discuss it,
yeah.
Sure. If, do you have the resolution in front of you there, Ken?
I do have that paperwork.
Well, I moved it to get it onto the table
Okay.
so that we could then discuss it. So
Okay. All right.
we've got it up.
Basically, we're voting to whether to keep the book in the course, or basically ban it and not use it, is what we're looking at doing.
When you say the book that was discussed earlier.
Correct.
The absolutely
Yes.
true diary of a part-time Dominican.
So we have a couple options here. The committee has met. Ken, can you elaborate on what the committee had discussed?
Right, the committee did look at the book. They met 2 times, also had Mrs. Stevens involved in the first committee meeting, had that discussion. They took a look at the book. I think the book had been used in high school for the past 7 years. So they came to the consensus that they felt that the book should remain and be able to be used as a teacher felt. So they did review and felt positively about going forward with using the book at
How many members were
high
on
school.
the committee, Dr. Ken?
I believe there were 5.
And what was the composition of the committee? I mean, community members, teachers, what was the?
High school librarian, community librarian,
There was one parent,
yes.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually more than 1, 2.
And wasn't there a discussion or proposal of a possible parental consent form being used for the book, or that proposal, was that out there?
Not with the committee.
No, I understand.
Now, as far as, the book being used in class, if someone objects to their child using that book, they may elect to use a different book for that child. Yes,
Has that always been the case?
correct. That's part of board policy.
There was never a form that they had to see, and that it was always that they did object to it, they were given another book to read for that course.
Well, for myself, I know when Joan sent me those text messages that evening, I looked at those and I was absolutely shocked. I was flabbergasted that, what are we doing? It looked bad, but it became 5 pages out of a 230-page book that after I read the book, I honestly forgot what the complaint was. Is it a great work of literature? I don't think so, but I also don't think I'm qualified to determine that. I know that we were provided with Mrs. Layfeld's lesson plans and how she teaches those parts of this book. And again, it's not throughout the whole book. Those are taken out of context, they look terrible. Within the context of the entire book, it fits. I would have no problem whatsoever having my soon-to-be junior son read this book. That doesn't mean I condone pornography. I don't think it's pornography. Doesn't mean that my house has lax or loose morals. Anybody out in that audience who knows me knows that that's not the case. But I guess I come down on the side of, after looking at her lesson plans, she has some great discussion points for this book. That's what learning is about. And with all due respect, Joan, I do have a tremendous amount of respect for you and Scott. what you folks do, I love it, and it makes you saints. But we're talking about a whole community here. And I can't look out into that audience and say that there are no redeeming qualities in this book.
I guess I would somewhat,
Mr. Chairman,
continue.
we're gonna talk about this or the board first, and if we have any questions, we can be addressed, okay? Go ahead, Bill.
Sure. Thank you. And I'll be honest, my Christian conscience struggled with this too. And when I first saw the excerpts and the quotes, didn't like it. And I'll be honest, my first reaction was, we don't need this. Then I read the book. And I like the way the author dealt with, well, first of all, a lot of those excerpts that were quoted earlier were two 15-year-old kids, excuse me, talking. And could they have talked about something else? Of course. Should they have? Maybe. But they were being 15-year-old kids. And some of the words that were used in there, in fact, African Americans having sexual relations with buffaloes. I mean, that was derogatory bullying toward the central figure of the book. That was used to show that this kid was bullied, how he dealt with bullying, and the same thing with some of the other terms that were used in there. And the fact that the kid dealt with the death of his grandmother, who was the matriarch of the tribe, and his father was an alcoholic, and his mother struggled with anxiety, and his father's best friend was killed because of a drunk. I mean, there were things that I believe that the book dealt with that the author took on that wasn't easy, and that I honestly think would be helpful for a 15 or 16-year-old kid. And so from that perspective, I too would be supportive of keeping it as an option in the classroom.
Okay. Do we have any other further comments from the board?
I guess I would just go back one other thing, Mr. Spencer. Oh, okay. He had mentioned that, you know, if it's okay for juniors, would it be okay for middle school or elementary? I don't think it would be. Because I think you distinguish, I think we as a board and an administration, we trust our teachers to teach age-appropriate material. So where a junior might be expected to be able to handle this information, no, I would not put this in the hands of junior high kids. Certainly would not put it lower than that, even. So there is a distinction, there is a differentiation, but what's acceptable for one grade or one class may not be appropriate for every grade or every class. And that's why we have trained administrators, trained teachers. That's their job, that's their function.
I think I need to jump in on this too. I did a little research on it when Joan contacted me. It's a 5.4 reading level. That means 5th grade, 4th month. So it could be read by someone as young as 5th grade if they have an appropriate reading level for that. It's geared toward reluctant readers. When they say reluctant readers, they mean that they want to attract the attention either by the graphic nature of it's considered a graphic novel. It's got the little cartoon characters in it to appeal to the mind of someone that really doesn't want to read very much. I was offended at the language. It was unnecessary. I hate it when authors do that because it's not necessary to do it. After reading the book, I really understood what the purpose of it was, though. The purpose is to discuss bullying and underprivileged children, kids who are trying to make themselves better, building themselves up, pulling themselves up by the bootstraps. But I've always lived by the theme, if I have to question myself if it's right or wrong, other people would question that too. And that's exactly what's happening here. You know, one person questions it, I think others will too in the future, especially since we've drawn it to the attention that it is ultimately a very good book. I mean, it's unfortunate that some of the things were thrown into it that were.
Okay. All right, I can read this. We all know what we're voting on, but I'll go ahead and go through and read this and let you know what exactly it states of what we're doing. And our option is to either adopt or reject this. If we reject it, basically we're removing it from the curriculum. If we adopt it, we're taking the committee's recommendation and continuing using the book if that instructor sees fit. We're not going to ban it, in other words. Okay? All right, so the treasurer advised the board and notice the requirements of RC 121.22 and the implementing rules adopted by the board pursuant thereto were complied with for the meeting. And if so moved, the adoption of the following resolution, whereas a member of the City of Salina School District community and parent of a student of the district complainant objected to the use of instructional materials being used at the district, specifically for the use of, I think it was English.
It was
1. What was it? I can't remember which course it was. 11.
English 3.
Okay.
practical English.
Okay, practical English. And the objection there too. So, whereas the objection was reviewed by the review committee in accordance with Board Policy 9130, public complaints, and whereas the committee recommended the complainant's objection be overruled and the instructional material not be withdrawn from the curriculum committee's recommendation, and whereas the complainant appealed that committee's recommendation to the board as permitted by the Board Policy 9130, and whereas the superintendent has forwarded the request and all written materials relating to the matter to the board, and the board has reviewed the request and the materials. Whereas the board is required by Board Policy 9130 to review the case and advise the complainant in writing of its decision regarding the objection of the committee's recommendation within 30 business days. And now therefore be resolved, the Board of Education of the City Salina City School District, County of Mercer, State of Ohio, that based upon the board's review of the objection, all written material relating to the objection received from the superintendent or the committee in the Board Policy P09130, this board hereby takes the following action with respect to the committee's recommendation. This is the option where you adopt or reject. And further it states the action of the committee's recommendation is based upon the finding of determination of the Board of Education that the instructional material may not be removed solely because it presents ideas that may be unpopular or offensive to some. The instructional material is or is not appropriate for the age of the maturity level of the students whom it is being used. The instructional material is or is not accurate. The instructional material is or is not objective. The instructional material is or is not being used appropriately. Those are basically reasons for rejecting it. Okay? So basically that's what we're up for. If we're going to keep it on the agenda, we move to adopt their recommendation to keep it on the curriculum.
Well, the motion's already happened, and
Yeah.
it has been seconded.
Correct.
So
we're ready
I think
to
we're at
move
the point where if we wanted to let the gentleman.
Did you want to speak now, sir?
Yeah. My name is Bill Shreves, and I'm the oldest one here. I'm the one most likely to die and meet Christ. I don't feel like I could meet Christ on a level playing field with that book tucked up under my arm. It is sinful Any way you look at it, it is sinful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd call the question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Go ahead, Tom.
Mr. Gilmore,
Aye.
Mrs. Voorhees,
Aye.
Mrs. Gingrich. Mr. Sell,
Yes.
Mr. Huber.
Yes.
Under item number 9, we have the second reading of the board policy and guidelines. We don't have any informational items this evening. And then next, we're looking at executive session.
We do have to go into executive session to discuss under G1, to consider one more applicable items, which is employment.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Have a second? Okay, Bill. We will now go into executive session and be back hopefully shortly.
Got to call the roll.
Roll call.
Roll call. Go ahead.
Mr. Gilmore,
Aye.
Mr. Sell,
Yes.
Mrs. Voorhees,
Yes.
Mrs. Gingrich. Mr. Huber.